Hello everyone, this is going to be a presentation illustrating the statewide average charges, average statewide cost, and average length of stay for three different procedures, and we're going to look at the comparison between rural and urban hospitals and figuring out based on those different classifications the average length of stay and also the average statewide charges and which hospitals performed the best. But first, we're going to start with our brief. Just a little bit of background. One of the principal sources of revenue for Maine health systems is Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Maine. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Maine has a fiduciary responsibility to ensure that the insurance fund for the Maine Health Systems Group remains solvent. In an effort to assist them with these endeavors, we have again enlisted the assistance of Maine General Hospital's data team to help us obtain the data that has been identified as critical to ensure that our rural and urban hospital spending is staying within benchmark metrics. This is an endeavor that's being taken on with the assistance of a lot of different entities, including the physicians, nurse practitioners, physician assistants, and other care providers within the Maine Health Systems Group, the Maine Health Systems Hospital CEO and vice presidents, in addition to Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Maine's business account manager, senior accountant, and VP of sales. And this analysis of key financial metrics is going to include comparisons of length of stay, average statewide charges, and average statewide costs based on location within the New York area. So this first chart that we're going to be looking at here is for knee arthroplasty. And as you can see, we have the average length of stay. Let me start with the hospitals are listed over here. R is for rural and U is for urban. This is the average length of stay in days, and then this is the zip code that the hospital is located in. And then down here on the x-axis, we have the average statewide charges. So as you can see that the best performing hospital in terms of having the lowest average statewide charges, in addition to having the lowest average length of stay, was Albany Memorial's rural hospital. Their average length of stay was a little bit over 3 days, and their charges, average statewide charges, are right here at $45,561, and then average statewide costs is $19,269, which is lower than any of the other hospitals, as you can see. And that if you hover over each individual hospital, you can see their different the zip code, the name of the hospital, the procedure, the average length of stay, their average statewide charges, and the average statewide costs as well. So this chart illustrates the average statewide charges, cost, and length of stay for a hip replacement. So this, once again, here are all the hospitals listed over here to the left. Here's their status as rural or urban listed right here. Here's their average length of stay, and here's the hospital zip code. So if you hover over each of these as well, you will see the same information as on the previous slide. And as you can tell, the hospital that did the best in this area was Glen Falls Hospital, with a little bit under 4 days as their average length of stay. And they had their average statewide charges are $49,816, and average statewide costs are $20,368. And as you saw on the previous slide, you can also hover over each of these hospitals and see that same information. And finally, we have the average charges, average statewide cost, and average length of stay for a C-section. So here up at the top, we have each of the hospitals' names. Down here, we have their average length of stay. And then we've got average statewide cost right here. And then we've got their statewide average charges over here. So this graph is set up a little bit differently, but as you can see, the hospital with the shortest average length of stay was going to be right over here at Samaritan Hospital, their rural hospital. And they also they did not actually have the lowest the lowest average length of stay, which is different than the previous two procedures metrics because the hospital with the lowest length of stay also had the lowest statewide charges, but in this case, that is not what happened. The lowest average statewide charges actually went to Ellis Hospital Bellevue Women's Care Center. Their statewide costs were $89.74, but as I said, the hospital with the lowest average length of stay was actually Samaritan Hospital's rural entity. So that is the summary for this presentation. I thank you for taking the time to watch, and I hope that it achieved its purpose to help you to see how the different hospitals in New York stack up on these three metrics. Thank you so much.